Good evening. My name is Scott Lee, and I am an alcoholic. And very grateful to be back at the specific group. And I love you dearly. And got good friends here, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm a member of the backroom group in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'll talk a little bit about my group tonight. I'm very proud of my group, as I'm sure you are of yours. You should be from the announcements I just heard. You got great stuff going on here. I like to open my talks with a quotation from Lois Wilson, who was, as you probably know, co-founder of Al-Anon, Bill's wife. And a lot of meetings open with a moment of silence and then the serenity prayer. Someone asked her one time what she did in that moment of silence, and she said, "I invite God to the meeting." And it's not that I don't believe God's here. I do believe that, but I get the gift. Something wonderful happens for me when I stop and honor that presence. And so what I'm going to do here in just a minute is I'm going to ask for a moment of silence. I'm going to ask everybody here if you would invite your God to join us and bless us with open hearts. And just in case there's somebody here, you don't have a God, you got one you're afraid of or something, you're just unsure, whatever, borrow mine for this time we're together tonight. I'm serious. You can address him as the God of Scott's limited understanding, right? Get you guys off on the right foot. And try it for an experiment. We'll just see what happens. You can't be embarrassed by it. Nobody even know if you do it. So let's take a couple of moments and acknowledge the presence of deity, and I'll meet you back here. Amen. Thank you. I was asked to tell my story. I found the directions in the book in two different places, page 29, but also on page 50, where it says, "In our personal stories, you'll find a wide variation in the way each teller approaches and conceives of the power, capital P, power, which is greater than himself." So I guess that's my subject. I did not begin my life searching for a relationship with God. I began my life a victim of the delusion that I could wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if only I managed well. Recognize that? It's on page 61. I was so crazy when I got here that I thought if I could get what I wanted, it would make me happy. Boy, am I a poor observer. I mean, I got what I wanted several 100,000 times. Didn't you? Are you happy? Uh-huh. That was my experience with it, too. And anyway, that was where I was. I didn't start drinking until I was 18 years old. I have a very good excuse for that. I think my dad was one of us, and he told me when I was about 12, said, "There's beer in the refrigerator, get one when you want it." And he meant that. And he said, "One of these days you're going to want to get drunk for your first time. When that day comes, you come to me and tell me what you want to drink, I'll buy it. And we'll sit in the living room and get drunk together your first time." And he meant that. So as you can clearly see, it was not against the rules for me to drink, therefore I didn't drink. You followed that, didn't you? Okay. But I went away to college the summer I turned 18. The boys were drinking beer, and I would have paid any price to be one of the boys, so I started drinking beer. And somewhere between the first sip of the first one and the bottom of the second one, I got the magic. Okay? And I didn't fly 4 hours today to talk to you, by the way. I come to talk with you. We're doing this together. All right? And by the bottom of that second beer, the magic happened, and I got taller. Who got taller? Let's see them. Come on. Who got taller? And leave them better looking. You can leave them up. Right? Yeah. I mean, my pimples fell right off. I'm surprised to this day they don't use it on the TV ads. You know, Budweiser cures acne. I can just see it. It cured mine. Of course, it relapsed the next day, but you should have seen me that night. Oh. And fantastic dancer. Anybody got a double on the dancer? Two double on the dancer? Couple of, okay. Yeah. Expert on many subjects. You get smart? Wow. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing that it did for me is it made me feel like I was as good as everybody else. I don't know how this happened to me, but sometime when I was about that old, I got this belief that I'm not as good as everybody else. There's something wrong with me. I'm defective, and it can't be repaired. And I became an actor as a small boy, and my act was that I pretended to be whoever I thought the people immediately in front of me wanted me to be, which means I'm a different guy to everybody. And the greatest fear in my life is people from different parts of my life to be together at the same place at the same time. How would I act? Right? Because I'm act all the time. And I've been acting so long I don't have the faintest notion who I am. Right? And I got that beer in me when I was 18 years old. And all of a sudden we went from, "I'm afraid you'll find out who I really am and run me off." We went from that to, "Y'all are pretty lucky I'm here." And that is an entire psychic change. That's what that is. And Dr. Silkworth says so beautifully in the text that that's what I've got to have to get over alcoholism. And the reason is because that's what alcohol did for me. If alcohol hadn't done so much for me, it could have never done anything to me. You know, the social drinkers, whatever that is, that doesn't happen for them. They don't get that. Anyway, on kind of a time budget tonight, so I'm going to fast forward. I zipped through a 4-year college in 5 years and 2 summer schools. Let's see you. Where are you? Come on, I know you're here. All right, thank you. And joined the United States Air Force. And I went through Air Force pilot training, Valdosta, Georgia, class 68C. And I was a drunken pilot. All right, I'm flying a high-performance airplane. You know, brake release to 40,000 feet, 3.5 minutes. Has a roll rate of 420 degrees a second. Okay? Let me tell you something, your eyeballs won't track that if you're sober. I mean, it's a blur. Fully acrobatic airplane. I'm flying that thing with a severe hangover. And I did it a lot. And I graduated second in my pilot training class. Number 2 man in the class. Some guys can just hit a golf ball, you know it? Well, I could just drive an airplane. I just could. I could just do it. And I usually tell a lot of flying stories. I'm going to restrict myself a little bit tonight, but I flew a 4-engine jet all over the world for the next year out of Charleston. I've been drunk on 5 continents and don't have a guess how many islands. And I was then sent to Vietnam. I flew a gunship in the Delta. It was Puff the Magic Dragon, if you didn't know, or Spooky if you did. And I was eventually transferred, and I was at Phu Cat Air Base, which is about the middle of South Vietnam. And I was drinking tequila in the officers' club one night. Anybody ever drinking tequila? Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. And forgive me for giving advice. But I know I shouldn't. And anyway, I was drinking tequila. I think of tequila today as traveling juice. You know what I mean? When I'm drinking tequila, I need to be someplace else. I need to be there right now. Well, I woke up someplace else. Did you ever wake up someplace else? Yeah, I woke up someplace else. And fortunately enough, I was still on the air base, and I looked around, I found my stuff, and I was still had my flight suit, and I found my boots and my sunglasses and my hat, and I'm walking across this air base about 6:30 in the morning with about a 4-6 hangover. You remember the 4-6? Oh, that was a bad one. And I was a captain by this time, and I passed somewhere 15, 20 people walking across, a couple of miles across this base. I outranked them all. They all saluted me. But they had the funniest expressions on their faces. And I thought, how can all these enlisted guys know that I was a jerk in the officers' club last night? I cannot figure this thing out. They get back to my trailer, and I walk into the bathroom, and I have a look, and I'm missing the lens out of one side of my sunglasses, okay? It wasn't too long after that the colonel came to me, and he said, Captain Lee, you have such a good rapport with the enlisted men, and I'm concerned about some of them's drinking. Would you counsel them for me? I said, yes, sir, I'd be glad to. And with a severe hangover one morning, I counseled a number of the sergeants. Yeah, and I was a puker, by the way. Can I see the hands of the pukers? Come on. Okay, yeah, these are my people. Yeah, that's great. I thought the 2 greatest inventions of the 20th century were that, you know, that little half-moon shape of carpet they put around the commode for you to kneel on. That was invented by one of our boys, you know. His knees were all torn up from that terrazzo floor. He said, you ought to put a carpet in. And some of you knew that as the prayer rug, right? And the other invention I thought was so great was that soft commode seat you could rest your head on. You kind of in between heaves, you know. Oh, yeah, man. Then I'm in there bringing it up, you know, and I'm praying the pre-AA prayer. You know the one. God, get me out of this. I'll never do it again, right? Yeah, and that's alcoholic for amen. But, let's try something else. Isn't it? Who peed in the closet? Come on, where are you? I cannot believe you'd admit that in public. I never did that. Oh, I am so ashamed for you. Oh, no. Don't be telling people that. Oh, jeez. I never did that. Although my first wife's still kind of upset about that coffee table that used to be in the living room. I did that gag in a jail earlier this year, about 25 inmates sitting there, and I said, who peed in the closet? And one guy put up his hand, and I did that to him. And he says, hey, man, no big deal. Wasn't my closet. It's a perspective thing, I suppose. Anyway, I still miss the flying. They tell me that if you can ever hear a plane go over and not look up, that you're through. And I haven't had the controls in my hands in over 30 years, and I'm not done. I looked at every one I heard today. And I used to sit in cockpits and say, I can't believe they pay us to do this. Couldn't believe it. And after 5 years, I resigned my commission and walked away from the greatest job I guess I'll ever have, with the exception of this one. And it broke my heart. And I got a job as a traveling salesman. If you're not serious about staying sober, I'd like to recommend to you that before you get your next drink, interview, get a job as a traveling salesman. It'll bring you back here faster than any other form of work that I know of. And anyway, in the summer of 1984, my business partner realized that I was in real trouble. And what had happened is his wife was in treatment for a prescription drug addiction. He went through Family Week. Yeah. And then he and I played a new game that was sweeping the country called Intervention. Some of you have probably played. And June the 28th, 1984, which is my sobriety date. And like your first speaker, by the way, Donnie, I really appreciated what you had to say. I, too, am sober from my first AA meeting. And that is a gift. But I signed into a little treatment center outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and I was not very happy to be there. I didn't think I was ever going to have any more fun. And I didn't know I hadn't had any fun yet. I never thought I was going to laugh out loud or enjoy a ball game or even smile, I don't think. The text says stupid, boring, and glum. That's what I thought my life was going to be without the booze. That was one of the many, many, many things I was wrong about. And if you're new, I hope you heard that. The many, many things I was wrong about. Some of what I know for sure and certain just ain't so. And that's one of my cornerstones today. But it wasn't then. And so I'm in this treatment center because my partner explained to me that I'm either going to treatment or we're done. And he was carrying me by then. I was loaded up so bad. It took me three tries to dial my own home phone number. That's the kind, I'm not kidding you, that's the kind of shape I was in. And I didn't sleep the first 3 nights I was in treatment. And if you're on the kind of mixture I was on, they say that's real common. And I'm laying there the 4th night, and I'm knowing I ain't going to sleep again. And so some of you may recall, if you're not sleeping and you're not drinking, man, it stays dark a long time at night. And so I'm laying here this night one more time knowing I ain't going to sleep. And what I'm going to describe happened to me. It's not like I did any of this. A review of my life happened, and it wasn't like a near-death experience, one of those instantaneous things. And if you've had one of those, I can't wait to hear about it. It fascinates me. But this was over the course of several hours where I saw my life in segments. And I had always given myself credit for my intentions. I'm probably the best intended person that you've ever met. I have some really spectacular intentions. One of my favorites, I used to be an amateur magician. Another well-intended fellow here, yeah. I'm an amateur magician. I do close-up, cards, coins, rope. And I intended to get a clown suit. And when I was on the road, instead of running the saloons, put on the clown suit, go to a children's hospital and do a magic show for the kids. I think you will all admit tonight that only a truly spectacular individual will do something like that. Do you not admit that? And one of these days, I'm going to do that. And our third step talks about a decision. It was explained to me that the difference between an intention and a decision is an intention is followed by more intentions. A decision is followed by action. That's the difference. And this night I'm laying in this treatment center bed, and the intentions are gone. Can't see them. And boy, the show isn't quite as pretty without them. And I'm laying there thinking about, and I got to thinking about the worst thing that in my own opinion, my own experience, that I've ever done. And I'd always been able to stop it before. 3 straight scotches will take that away. 6-pack will do it. And I'm laying there in the bed in the treatment center. And I cannot get it out of my head. It will not leave. And I lay there for a period of time, and I would guess somewhere between 10 minutes and about an hour and a half, I don't know, but a long time thinking about this thing that I'd done, and it was tearing me apart. And I reached what I call bottom. We use the term a lot. I've not found its definition in my literature, and so all I can share is my own experience with bottom. For me, bottom was not on the physical plane. I'd been in lots of kinds of trouble. I had thrown up blood several times. That was not bottom. I know men that are serving long prison sentences, not bottom. Bottom for me was of the Spirit. Bottom was in my chest. When I hated my guts so bad and so repulsed by who I had been and what I had done, that I would pay any price not to be that man. For me, that was bottom. And at that point, I assume it was my spirit, because what I'm about to describe all happened in my chest. None of it came out. It didn't in my mouth, my throat, my head. None of that was involved. From in here, screamed. One of the loudest things I've ever heard, screamed to a God that I don't think I believed in. Screamed out, God, forgive me. And I received the forgiveness in that moment. I'm going to try to tell you what it was like. I'm laying on my back in a bed with my eyes closed. And with my eyes still closed, I can suddenly see the entire room. There's this magnificent light shining just on me. Physically, there was a feeling that the best way I can describe it is when you've had x-rays taken of your teeth, when you finish, they got this lead-lined blanket that's laying on you, and when they finish the x-rays, they pick that up. That's what it felt like. I had been unaware of it prior to that moment, but it felt like suddenly something very heavy that was laying all over me flew up off of me. I mean, just zip, just took off straight up. And my body felt so light, I thought I was going to float off the bed. I was convinced that that was going to happen any second. And I lay there in the presence of infinite love. And I think I took the first 3 steps in that moment. And I lay there in the Master's presence for a while. And I knew, on this level, what my wife calls heart knowledge, that there was a God, and that God has the power to forgive me, and that I'm forgiven. And I used to say God forgave me then, but at the risk of being controversial, I don't speak for God, and I'm not real comfortable around people that do. So I'm not sure if he ever judged me. I'm not sure God forgave me then. Maybe I was always forgiven, but I know this. I know I received the forgiveness in that moment. That was the piece that mattered to me. And I don't know how long I lay in his presence. I've talked to a few other people who have had similar experiences. And what we call time doesn't exist in that presence. And it could have been 0.2 of a second or 2 or 3 hours. I do not know. And I'm not aware of anything else that passed between us, although I believe any time I try to go into that presence, it does. And after that, I slept some. And I awakened the next morning. I wanted to be one of his guys. And that was my first cornerstone. And I'd like to read to you what Bill says about his experience. This is page 12 in the text where Bill's talking about his white light experience. And he says, but soon the sense of his presence had been blotted out by worldly clamors, mostly those within myself. And I think what he's saying is that that big experience he said he had would not have kept him sober. I'm not sure if that's what Bill was saying. That's what I'm saying about me. I do not believe that that big experience would have kept me sober to this day. I don't believe it. I think I was the last gasper. I think I was hanging out over the edge. It was the only shot I got. And I woke up the next morning and I wanted to be one of his guys. And I surrendered to the staff of that hospital. And if they said it, I just simply did it. And things started changing for me. A couple of weeks later, are there any members of Al-Anon here, by the way? Can I see your hands if you're anybody? Thank you. I appreciate you coming, and I'm honored by your presence, sincerely. I walked into my counselor's office a couple of weeks later, and he was a member of Al-Anon. I salute you. Man saved my life. And he was working on my aftercare plan, and I went in there with a great attitude to assist him. If you're new and you don't know why that's funny, please listen up, okay? And I explained to him coming through the door that I wasn't going to take antabuse, I wasn't going to halfway house, and they had a 28-day program, and I wasn't staying a minute longer. Just laying out the parameters to help the man do his work. So I'm just trying to be helpful. And he said, well, you've left out something you aren't going to do. I said, what? He said, well, you aren't going to make it. Well, I took that personally. And in some exceptionally strong language, I said to him, generally, this won't be a quote, why'd you say that? And he responded with a question that changed my life. He said, if you already know how to run a program to keep yourself sober, how is it you happen to be a patient here? And I responded by glibly saying, and I didn't have an answer, and it had never happened to me before. That did to you? I mean, didn't you always have an answer? I know you had to make some up. I mean, didn't you have an answer? I always had an answer. I can't answer the man's question. And that stuck in my mind for that whole day. My body went from there to the places it was supposed to be. But my mind was back in his office, grappling with the unanswerable question. And about 9 o'clock that night, I could show you where I was walking back to my cottage. I could take you within 2 or 3 feet of where I was when I got the answer. And it's the same place the prayer came from. I'm walking, thinking about this, and all of a sudden the answer showed up here. It went, it's like I'm walking and a mud ball hit me in the chest. It literally, physically hit me. And the answer was and is, I do not know how to run a program to keep myself sober. And if I'm going to be one of the very few who make it, I'm going to have to do it all. This is not a cafeteria line lunch for me and I can take what I want and leave the rest. My wager's too high. I got too much bet here. Let me tell you about my wager, okay? Here's my wager. Here's my recovery. Let me show you what hangs from it. My life, how many times do you think a pilot with 2,000 hours, a drunken pilot, could have been killed? Right? Or driving a car, any of those other crazy things we did, right? My life, my sanity. I didn't tell you I've been to the insane asylum. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands on that. I've been in the little rubber room. Okay? I can draw it for you. I've been there. My freedom. I'm supposed to be serving life in prison. I flew a mission that was classified above top secret, and some stuff. And I was so drunk taxiing out one night that I taxied it off into the weeds. If it had been daylight, or if there had been another plane taxiing behind me, or if there had been, or if I'd been near the tower. Somebody else talks tonight. I'm still in Leavenworth. My freedom. My relationship with the most spectacular woman on the planet, Miss Linda, which some of you know her and some of you have heard her. She's a fabulous Al-Anon speaker. Don't go to bed tonight without getting one of Linda's tapes. She's fabulous. My relationship with our children, my house, my car, my job, my peace of mind. Everything in my life that means anything to me is suspended from my recovery, all of it. I lose my recovery and all that hits the floor and shatters. I'm not saying you're there. I'm saying I am. Tonight with a 19-year chip in my pocket. I'm there tonight. This is all I got. Everything that means anything to me is bet here. It's a wager. I don't get to take what I want and leave the rest. This is too important. And at that point, when that realization came, I surrendered to what I lovingly call Step 1, Section B. Oh, my life's unmanageable. I didn't get that. I thought the first step said we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, therefore our lives had become unmanageable. On close examination, I have observed that the word therefore does not appear in the first step. There's a hyphen or a dash in there. Look it up in your dictionary. It connects two separate thoughts. The reason I was confused is that on June the 27th, 1984, the fact that I was powerless over alcohol and the fact that my life was a disaster were related. Today, September 4th or 5th, wherever it is, 2003, the fact that I am powerless over alcohol and my life is unmanageable are not related. I remain powerless over alcohol. My life remains unmanageable by me. Not playing semantics is one of the most important lessons I ever got anywhere. Based on my own performance, I have fired me as general manager of my own life. You would have fired, a good manager would have fired me decades ago, right? I fired me. And I have invited God in. I did it formally again this morning. I've invited God in to manage my life. He has a first sergeant. We call him Ice Cream Steve. That's my sponsor, right? And now my life, I've read the book a couple times. Page 59, where the short form of that step appears. I've read past that. I can't find the page that says, having now achieved this lofty spiritual level, your life has become manageable. The tank's full, the keys are in it. Go get it. Somebody quote the page number, please. I can't find it. But step 2 references my insanity. I can quote a couple of pages that promise sanity. 57 and 84, and it may be in some other places. Part of my sanity is I'm not trying to run it anymore. My life is no longer insane. I'm living a spectacular life, but I don't get to manage it anymore. Thank God. I mean, there's some doubt as to how much more I could survive of what I want. It was killing me. I was getting it all, and it was killing me. And so I embraced the second half of that first step, and I finally really surrendered to the staff of that hospital. And I zipped through their 28-day treatment program in 6 weeks flat. And they're doing math. What do you think? And went back to Nashville, Tennessee, where the only person in recovery in the whole city that I knew owned one of the businesses that I called on. And I didn't want him to know. Newcomer thinking, huh? Wow. Boy, newcomer thinking. I had a terminal case of newcomer thinking. And I set out to follow this aftercare plan. It said go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I went to 87. I made sincere attempt. There was one night I'm literally walking toward the door to go out to my meeting, and my son decides to try to learn to dance standing up in a rocking chair. And we went to the emergency room instead of the meeting. Now, I believe you will grant that that's a doggone good reason for missing a meeting. And you see, I didn't know you could go to 2 meetings in a day. Because I got newcomer thinking, okay? And they said, stay away from your playmates and playgrounds. My favorite watering hole in Nashville is on 8th Avenue South. I did not allow my vehicle to turn onto 8th Avenue South until I had a 2-year chip in my pocket. I'm not kidding. My car was not on that street. I completed the 4th step. They had a 4-step guide in the treatment center. I've cleaned up my language, and so I can't tell you what I think about that. Let me suggest the actual 4th step. It's in the big book. It's one of our best kept secrets. And it's a series of lists and observations and prayers. And it was the observations that were called for and the prayers that were called for that changed my life and the lives of the men I've had the privilege to sponsor. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I hope you'll get with somebody who just grinned and nodded, because you have really missed something neat. A couple of more secrets about the 4th step. Number 1 is there's no secret, no surprises on it. You already know all of that. So you have to be afraid of it. You already know it. And number 2, this was so important to me. They told me that 4th step, all that garbage, that's not who you are. That's who you're not. If that's who you are, you're still out there doing it. It doesn't make you sick to think about it. That must be who you're not. We will teach you here is how to quit doing who you're not, and how to receive the forgiveness so you can be at peace, and then who you really are will just kind of emerge from the ashes like the phoenix. And I see people nodding again. Okay, that's what that's about. 4 steps, one of the easiest steps we got. It's real long, but it's very easy. And if you don't think so, I'd love to talk to you afterward. I really would. But anyway, I completed this psychobabble. Do you still hate your mother? Do you look in the toilet before you flush? True, false, multiple choice, 4th step, worth nothing. And I called down to the treatment center to Bernie, who had not been my counselor. And I didn't like their 4-step thing. And anyway, I called Bernie, had not been my counselor, but I had asked him, and y'all going to have to forgive me, but I'm about medium rare. Miss Linda and I went to Hong Kong. What do you think? Woo! And Bernie was the counselor at that treatment center. When I had my big spiritual experience, I realized that I was going to have to dump my whole bucket to somebody. And the reason I chose Bernie is because you look at him until he was stoned. Well, you know what it looks like. Somebody stoned, the face is real relaxed. They got this dumb grin. They move kind of slow. You know what it looks like. I thought, I'm going to take my 5th step with this junkie. A week later, will he know what I said? He won't know if we did it. What a great choice. Right? Makes good sense. Called him. He said, sure. 4-hour drive, Nashville, Atlanta. Took my 5th step, which is where I began to get relief. And if you're new and the steps look to you like they're designed to punish you, that's how they look to me. They looked to me like they were written by a hanging judge that was having a bad day, right? And that was one of the many, many things I was wrong about. What the steps actually did was they gave me relief. That's what they did. They don't look like it, but that's what they did. Took my 5th step with Bernie. I dumped the whole bucket. And just as an aside, Bernie was not stoned. Bernie was sober over 20 years. That was serenity. I didn't know what it looked like. Okay, I thought he was ripped. Newcomer thinking, huh? Whoo, nothing like it. And come back to Nashville, and the only thing I haven't done yet on the aftercare plan is get a sponsor. Let me tell you about insanity. Let me try to see if you can fill in the blanks. I'll give you a 2-word fill in the blank, all right? Get ready. I was so insane that I was looking for a sponsor I could relate to. Oh, man. Is that crazy? Can you think of anything crazy? I can't figure out you can go to 2 meetings in a day. Who can I relate to? I can relate to the squirrel on the next branch that doesn't know his fanny from a hot rock. That's who I can relate to. Boy, do I ever not need a sponsor I can't relate to. They'll kill me. Maybe him too. Relate to. Woo! No, thank you very much. Boy, do I ever not need that. What I need is a sponsor I will obey. It's a concept I'm unfamiliar with. And anyway, there's finally spotted this guy in the meeting. His lights were on. You know what I mean? I think mine are. Feels like they are. I see some lights on, right? And this guy's life was working, and I wanted to feel like he looked. And I said, would you sponsor me? He said, yeah, here's your first assignment. I said, assignment? Whoa. I thought it was kind of like a big brother who loved you, wasn't going to give you a Dutch rub, and maybe would fix your wife. And one of the many, many things I was wrong about. And ask me later, I'll be glad to tell you I can't take the time. Came back to a week later and said, okay, Jerry, I did the assignment. He said, fine, I'll sponsor you my way. I said, what does that mean? And he said, you are too sick to stay sober on the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. You will need the program also. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And Jerry was sober a long time. When he died, a lot longer than the doctors said. And he said to the end, our very best kept secret in AA is the definition of our program. How do we keep it secret? Well, we read it at every meeting is how we keep it secret. It's on page 59 in the text. Sentence before the first step says, here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. No steps, no program. Get controversial for a minute. We are killing people with don't drink and go to meetings. We are committing murder with that. Yeah, I thought I was going to be at home tonight. Yeah, we're killing them. Because I got a question for you. If sitting with a bunch of other alcoholics talking about our problem is going to get people sober, wouldn't the guys under the Woodland Street Bridge in Nashville, Tennessee be sober right this second? Bet they would. It ain't working for them and it don't work for us. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Sober 19 years. Blessed beyond my capacity to receive. I have personally not yet seen anybody in and out of this program. Not the first one. I haven't seen it yet. In and out of the fellowship? Oh yeah, I see that every day. I have not personally seen anybody actually take work the 12 steps. I really don't care what the action verb is. I'd like to observe it's not learn, understand, believe, or interpret. All right? Haven't seen anybody do the 12 steps while being sponsored by a sponsor who's already done the 12 steps and stay active carrying our message and drink again. Has anybody here seen that? I didn't think so. I get to ask that question to between 10 and 20,000 AA members a year. No hands go up. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Forward to the third edition says our path is the 12 steps. Page 59 says it's the 12 steps. No steps, no program. That's the piece I came to tell you. That's it. My situation was, anyway, I said, Jerry, why do I have to do the 12 steps? The only why question he ever answered for me. He said, step 1, section B says you're not in management. Why is a management question. Consequently, all the why questions have the same answer. And the answer is you don't need to know. And I didn't like that. Today I love it. Because I always thought it was not knowing that made me crazy. It was needing to know that made me crazy. When I laid down the need to know, I got to be sane. But he answered this one question. He said, think of yourself as a garbage can. I said, boy, okay, that's easy. What? Yeah, right? What we're going to do with these steps is we're going to dump you out. Scrub the can, stay back upright. We're going to fish through your life, and most of it's garbage, and we're going to toss it. But some of it's good. We'll keep that portion. He gave 2 examples. Says, you love your kids? I said, you betcha. He said, we'll keep that. And then he got smart with me. He said, when you go to work, you do a good job? I said, yeah. He said, well, keep some of that. When we get finished with these 12 steps, you're going to be a big clean can with just a little good stuff in the bottom. Because our program's kind of like going to the dentist. We got to drill before we can fill. We got to dig the poison out. If we just fill with the good stuff, poison's still in there, going to get sicker, going to explode one of these days, going to make a mess. Good news, we got Novocaine. We call it fellowship. We call it home group. We call it sponsorship. We call it love. It'll work for you. It's worked for everybody else that's done it. And you don't even have to believe the steps will work for you. You just have to do them. It's kind of like penicillin. You don't have to want to take it. You don't have to understand why it works. Don't have to like the taste. Don't have to like the idea. Just take it. It'll work. All right? Steps same way. They don't know who's working them. They don't know how crazy you are. Don't worry about it. It'll work for you too. Thanks, Jerry. And he was a beautiful guy. He touched an awful lot of lives. And he said the reason that you have to do that, he says, one of these days something very heavy is going to slam into your heart. When it does, he said, your father's going to die. And on that day, if you don't have that big clean can empty, with just a little good stuff in the bottom, to store that pain in while we love you back to spiritual health, you'll escape. Because that's what you are. You're an escape artist. Alcohol's not your problem. I said, wait, whoa, time out. He said, alcohol's not your problem. Never was. Alcohol's your answer. Makes you tall enough and smart enough and good looking enough and able to talk to the ladies and make you feel like you're a member of the human race. It's the only answer you've ever known. And when we ask you to lay down that answer, that's what you've done. You've laid down your answer, and you're going to have a new answer. And the new answer is going to have to be at least as good as the old one. I could quit drinking for periods of time Well, we refer to it as forever, somewhere between 20 minutes and about 6 weeks. Right? Did I get it? The earth people are very confused about this forever word, but I can quit forever. I did a couple thousand times. And any nose pukers here? Everybody puke out your nose? Come on, where are you? Yeah. Nose pukers always quit forever, right? I always did. And but my problem, I could quit for a little while, but I couldn't quit wanting to drink. That was the big piece for me. I needed to quit being thirsty, and I didn't know how to do it. And I think for me, the most powerful line in our book, the most powerful promise we have is the first line of the 12th step. Having had a spiritual awakening is the result. That's what it says, the. It means one. This is my experience. Spiritually awakened people don't drink, and they are not thirsty. That's the one. That was the one I had to have. And that's what we promise. I think the 12th step isn't so much what I do, it's who I become. I become the guy that has those characteristics. And one of those characteristics is I'm not thirsty. I hadn't been thirsty since December of 1984. I remember the last one. If you're new and you're walking around not drinking all the time, I understand that. I'm not doing that. I'm walking around happy, joyous, and free. I walked around not drinking until my sponsor got me well into the step work. And I surrendered to him. I've had some, just a real quick horror story. My daughter's doing great. She sends you love. She shot herself in July of '93. And I spent 60 days in the hospital. The first 4 days they said she won't live. 4 days is a long time. And you people were spectacular. You put a 24-hour watch on me for 60 days. There wasn't a time in the next 60 days that there wasn't a member of my home group at least as close to me as I am to Pete in this front row. 60 days, 24 hours a day, you were there. If you're new, it wasn't to keep me from drinking. It never came up. It was so that one of my people would be there to hold me if I needed to cry at 3 o'clock in the morning. Because you see, I had learned to cry. I needed to. I got here so locked up. And there's a very masculine guy in my home group. He's crying at every meeting. I finally said, Tony, what's with the tears? And he said, somebody says something beautiful and it touches my heart and I weep and it feels so good. And I said, Tony, I can't cry. And he said, I'll teach you. And he did. And if you'd like to learn to cry, if you will see me later, I got a handout on it. By George, I typed it up. And I'm not kidding. There's a red folder under that chair right next to Bob. And if you want to learn to cry, I can help you. And it's important to me to be genuine. Now, if you now disrespect me because I'm a man who cries, God bless you. I'm okay. I hope you like me, but I'm okay if you don't. And I didn't have that when I got here. Because if you didn't like my act, there was nothing. Today, I don't have to live that way. How spectacular is that? And a man that I sponsor, his son was killed. And he didn't drink again, but emotionally, he was gone for a very long time. You get up close to his face and scream, he couldn't hear you. And I have his permission to tell this story too, by the way. I have permission to tell anything I tell. And he's back now. I gave him a 17-year chip in January. Okay, hear me, he didn't drink, but emotionally he was gone. He's doing great now. And he said it this way. He said, one of these days you're going to have to go to the mountain all by yourself. If you hadn't done the work out of this book and you don't know how to reach up and take the master's hand, you're not going to be able to go. And I believe that. I believe that's true for all of us. And I was able to go. And you guys are spectacular. I learned from the Al-Anons, trust the actions, not the words. I know who you are. I saw what you did. I love your words. I'm a word merchant myself. I saw what you did. I'm told that you can pretend to care. You cannot pretend to show up. You showed up, right? You showed up. I'm honored to be a member of a fellowship of people who show up like you do. You show up. Not this August, but the August before, another man I sponsor lost a son. And we showed up. And I had the privilege of doing some of the all-nighters at his house and holding him while he cried. Because he's real. See, I'm genuine today. I'm me. And I hope you like me. I really do. And I'm really okay if you don't. And that is such a feeling. Because the hole's closed. Right? The hole is closed. And boy, if you're new, it absolutely does mean that. But beyond that, my experience is eventually that's not enough. Because drinking was the old answer. If I put that down, I need a new answer. This is my experience. With the first 10 steps, I've cleaned up my past. There's nothing gaining on me. Steps 11 and 12 are enabling me to get excited about the idea that the loving God holds my future. I got a good friend that says he spends too much time in his head trying to clear away the wreckage of his future. Yeah, right. Okay, first 10 steps, past is clear. Last 2 steps, loving God holds the future. Those 2 facts free me to live one day at a time in this day. If I don't have them both in place, I can't be here. That's a little bit about what the steps are about. I talked about the idea that getting what I want won't make me happy. It's in different words on page 61, and yet I am happy today. So how did that come about? That's what I've discovered. I had pleasure and happiness confused. Pleasure is on the physical plane and is of short duration, is out there to be acquired, achieved, or attained. Happiness is internal. It's a side effect of having a healthy relationship with God and everybody on this planet, which is at least in part what these 12 steps are about, because that was my experience with it. But they had this one slogan on the wall, just made me crazy to look at it. And it was the only one I was doing. You know which one it was, don't you? Think. Boy, did I have that covered. My head was a very busy place. And I don't find it in my literature, so I'll take it upon myself to figure out what that means. You're welcome to this if you can use it. Think. What that means is 3 thinks is the limit. I don't care what it is. I can think about it once as good, twice as good. I can think about it the third time. When I've thought about it the third time, I must lay it down, for if I were going to outthink it, I would have outthunk it in 3 thinks. If I go to the 4th think, I got a problem with step 1, section B, I'm trying to manage it. All right? Fact of the matter is every problem I have today falls under step 1, section B. If I'm upset about it, it's because I'm trying to manage it. Right? From international politics to the way you drive your car to the fact that this spectacular woman that I'm married to puts the toilet paper on the roll backwards. It should feed over the top, as you well know. I fixed the one in the men's room. Should feed over the top. She puts it on the other way. She says, because we got a cat. Let me tell you something. I've been watching that cat almost 10 years. He don't use it. I walked out of a meeting one time, and a guy whose sponsor I sponsor said, I disagree with something you said. And if somebody here disagrees, I can't wait to hear from you. Not talk to you, hear from you. I may learn something, because some of what I know for sure ain't so. All right, help me. And what I had said was that my amends to my children never be complete. He said, that's not right. Did you go to your children and tell them what you thought you'd done wrong? Did you ask how you could repair the damage and do that? Did you ask for their forgiveness, and did they give it? I said, yes to all that. He said, you're trying to be the best father you can be today is not 9th step work, it's 12th. It's practicing the principles in all your affairs. Spiritually awakened people try to be good parents. And if you think it's 9th step work, you haven't accepted their forgiveness or God's or your own, you have work to do. He was right. I got free that day. My big book doesn't use the term living amends or continuing amends. If you're making them, it's okay with me, but I got free that day. I sure am watching a lot of us being manipulated by adult children who are real sick and are whacking on us because we weren't good parents in the past. I got free that day. I'm the best dad I can be today. But it's not because I wasn't in the past. It's because I'm spiritually awakened, and that's what we do. I share that only because I got free. And I'm going to share this piece because I get free. Now, politically, what I'm about to talk about is a hot potato. I am not here to talk about that. I'm here to share my experience for the single reason that I got free, and probably there's several people here that have got this that need to get free. If you've done what I'm about to talk about and you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. That is not what I'm talking about. I was laying in that hospital bed thinking about the worst thing I'd ever done. And what I had done as a young man was pay for an abortion. And that used to eat my soul. And that's what I was thinking about when my soul screamed for forgiveness and got it. But when I got to the 9th step, I felt like I owed amends to an unborn child, and I didn't think it could be done. And I've been blessed from my earliest days to be in the hands of people who knew what was in this book. This is page 83. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter. I was taught a way to write that letter. In my experience, the 4th step is not about writing. There's writing involved, but it's the observations and prayers that are life-changing. In my experience, this letter is not about writing, it's about tears. And it's been my experience that people who try to write a letter to an unborn child or a grandparent or somebody that's already gone, if you can't cry, you probably won't get free. And I've had the privilege of working with an awful lot of people on this thing. And the ones that can't cry don't get free. And the ones that can, that really let it flow, do get free. I have an awful lot more to say about that, and if somebody has a letter to write for any reason, if you'll please see me afterward, I'd love to talk to you about it. I typed up my experience with it, and I'd love to give it to you. Just because page 164 in the text says, more will be disclosed, and I've gotten free, and I've seen a lot of people get free doing it. And I'd love to talk to you about it. I just don't have time to do it right now. I want to talk about one of the hardest things I ever did. At 5 years sober, I called my sponsor. I asked him for advice on a guy I was trying to sponsor, and he says, I want you to drop him. I said, come on now, I'm serious. He says, I'm serious. I'd rather have you on the golf course than working with this guy. I said, Mike, be serious with me. I'm trying to help this man. He said, yeah, but you're not. He said, what are you asking him to do that he's not doing? And I said, well, call me every day, look for a job, call his parole officer, open and close his days on 86, 87, and 88, and go and start his 4-step. He said, how much of that's he doing? I said, well, he's not doing any of it. He said, you're not his sponsor. You're his fire chief. He's his sponsor. And when his tail feathers are ablaze, he calls you and siphons off some of your serenity and puts out his fire and goes right back to doing it his way, and you are not helping him. You're co-signing a lie. You're letting him think he's in the program. He's not. And he said, could you stay sober on the program he's working? I said, I don't think so. He said, can he? I said, I don't think so. He said, you're probably right. And when he drinks again, you're going to have to sleep knowing you told him the truth, because he could go to prison or kill somebody. No telling what could happen when this boy drinks again. And you're going to have to sleep knowing that you told him that he's not in the program. He may be in the fellowship, but he is not in the program. And you will tell him that. Now, I've discovered another reason since then, because that one was for me so I could sleep. This one is for him, so that the next time he wakes up in a jail cell in a pool of his own blood and vomit, I want him to have 3 options. And the options are to continue to live that way, to take his own life, or to try the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, knowing he hadn't tried it because I told him the truth. If I don't tell him the truth, I've signed his death warrant. And I went with a heavy heart, and if he said, no, please take me, don't fire me, I would have said, okay, here's today's assignment. I want you to read these 4 pages in the book. I want you to look up 3 words on every page. When you call me at 8:15 tonight, let's talk about the words you looked up. That's what I would have done, because that's what I do. Don't tell me, show me. I got a guy in my home group, I don't know how many times I've taken this guy back. He's due. He'll show up sometime fairly soon. Now, I really meant it this time. I mean, I know, but really, I mean, if you'll take me, I really will this time. I said, great. Here's today's assignment. Here's the time I want you to call me tonight. I'm taking him every time. Because I'm not going to be the one that says no the time he means it. But neither one of us is walking around thinking he's got a sponsor today. That's important to me. Something else important to me for the new guys, I've quit giving newcomers my phone number, and I have tasked the men that I sponsor to stop that also. At 100 days sober, I had 100 numbers. How many had I called? That's right. Same number as you, right? We don't give our numbers anyway. We exchange. Right? I exchange with new men. The men I sponsor exchange phone numbers with new men. And we call them too. Just a couple of times over the course of the next 2 or 3 days. Say, hey, my name's Scott. I met you in the back room on Sunday. We exchanged phone numbers. I talk to 4 or 5 guys every day that are in recovery. You're on today's list. How's it going? Nothing for me to pick up the phone, call him. He can't call me. It's life or death. This thing about the hand of AA always being there, maybe we can reach it out a little bit further. It's meant a lot to us. This is life or death, and we know it, and he doesn't, and I think that's really important. I moved out of the house my first wife and I were living in when I was sober 6 years. I got a moment of clarity. She's 5'5" and 105, and I'm 6 feet and 200, and she's tearing into me one more time, and I realized that I was just about to give her a straight right. And when she went down, I was going with her. She's on the way to the hospital. I'm on the way to the jail. It's a bad plan. And I literally did an about face and walked out the door, started looking for an apartment. I moved 48 hours later, and I did not know what to do. I don't believe in divorce, and yet I knew if I lived with her, I was going to beat her up. And I was given a gift, and I share it only as my gift. And the gift was 3 prayers. And each morning I prayed, God, if it's your will for us to be together, put us together. And number 2, if your will for us to be apart, put us apart. Here's the one that counts. If it's your will for me not to know today, leave me not knowing. For me, that's step 1 in prayer form. Leave me not knowing. When I can pray that and mean it, I can be at peace and not know. My sponsor said, serenity isn't freedom from the storm. Serenity is peace in the midst of the storm. And that's how I get it. And I didn't know for over 2 years. And today I'm married to Miss Linda, and God bless you. I hope you get a chance to hear her sometime. She is something. Except for that toilet paper thing, she is fabulous. I have the high honor and privilege of carrying meetings into correctional facilities on a regular basis. See the show of hands of people who are doing that? Stick them way up for a minute, please. Wow, you have got it going on here. I suspected that. I'll be controversial for just a minute. If anybody is suffering from depression, I'd like to recommend you get with one of these people and take a meeting into the joint. It will break a depression faster than anything I know of. And unlike some of the things being prescribed for our people, it will not hurt your recovery. And we're on fire. My home group's got 80 members. We're taking over 50 meetings a month into jails and prisons. You guys sound like you're on fire here too, and that's pretty neat. We've got a young men's meeting in the jail. Inmates under their 22nd natal birthday are having a meeting with our guys that get sober in their teens. Hippie James is 19, coming up on 2 years. He's on that team. And we got 3 guys that are over 30 that got sober in their teens, and they're on fire. We're doing weekends in the jail. 8 of us take between 40 and 50 inmates through the 12 steps, 3 hours on Friday night, all day Saturday, half day Sunday. The warden says the jail's a different place on Monday morning. It's a different place. Our guys did that a couple of weeks ago, and we got a letter back from the inmates. They'd all signed it, thanking the backroom group and so on. And British John, who was one of the coordinators, the co-chairs for that, read that to the group. And the last guy that spoke in that meeting had signed that letter. And he'd gotten out of the jail since then and was at our group. That was on Saturday. On Sunday of that week, we had our annual canoe float and water gun battle. Now, don't be thinking water gun, okay? Be thinking water gun. You got to remember who you're dealing with here. And we put about 30 canoes on the river after one of our meetings, and this guy that just got out of jail was in one of them. We believe in having fun in front of newcomers. I think it's important. They don't know they can have fun yet, but they see us doing it. They start to begin. They think it's possible, and I think that's really, really important. I'm going to tell you a story. My last flight in a high-performance airplane, when I was telling you about the Thunderbirds used to fly this thing, I leveled at 40,000. A brake release to 40,000 feet, 3.5 minutes. I'm level at 40, and I just wonder how high this thing will go. The service ceiling, which is, you're never supposed to be above that, and there's real good reasons. There are 2 good reasons. One of them is it'll kill you, and the other one is you could die easily. And I'll tell you later why if you want to know. But I thought, I just wonder how high this thing will go. It was before the radar told them. So I started climbing this thing, and I pulled it out of afterburner because you can watch the fuel gauges moving afterburner. And I'm doing 9/10 of the speed of sound. I got 15 degrees of bank, nose is up a little bit, and I'm climbing in this 30-mile circle about 80 miles west of Jacksonville, Florida. Thought I was going to get to 10 miles, right? Not supposed to be above 45. At 52,300 feet, I am down to less than 100 feet a minute rate of climb. You guys can all climb stairs at 100 feet a minute, okay? 9/10 of the speed of sound, military power, we're done. It's not going anymore. And I probably still hold the mil power record, altitude record for a T-38, but I'm level at 52,300 feet. I've just come to a northerly heading, and 9:30 in the morning on a clear day. The sun's coming up over my right shoulder. The sky above me is black at 9:30 in the morning on a clear day, because I'm almost in space. And I looked out to the west and I saw the curvature of the earth. Really saw it. This thing is a ball. I witnessed it. And in high flight, the author says, I reached out my hand and touched the face of God. And I know what he means. I had this peace washed over me like it was being poured out of a bucket. And it lasted for several days after that. I couldn't tell anybody, because if they believed me, I was going to get court-martialed. I mean, I was the town drunk. I was not the village idiot. And so I didn't tell them. And I heard myself telling that. Burke Harlan was one of my mentors, and I spoke at his 12th AA birthday when I was sober 5 years. And heard me telling that story. I wondered why I was doing it, and I realized at the end it was my first spiritual experience. And for over 30 years, I'd wanted to do that again, to go see the curvature of the earth again. I turned 60 years old on June 28th, and it was also my 19-year birthday. I'm sober I got both birthdays on the same day. And on June the 29th, my wife and 2 of our kids and I chartered a Learjet. And we went to 51,000 feet. And that's my lapel pin, has 510 on it. It's flight level 510. And we went up and saw the curvature of the earth again. I have learned to dream big. I serve a big God. Alcohol did not take away my dreams. It took away any chance they had of ever coming true. Any chance. And I asked God for an open heart when I stood up here. I got one. I've had a great time with you tonight. I love you dearly. And I'd like to acknowledge that God again and say thanks in public. I stand before you in stocking feet because I figure this many people ask God into the room. I could be standing on holy ground, and I try to honor that. I hope I have. And if you got touched and you borrowed my God, borrow him again. And I'd like to quote my wife, who says something that surprised me the first time I heard it. She said, God's will is a good deal. God bless. Thanks.